broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
I might be too strung out on compliments, overdosed on confidence, started not to give a fuck and stop fearing the consequence, drinking every night.
Let's go, everybody!
Frank, I thought you were gonna rap it.
No, I don't have it.
I wish you did.
No.
Welcome on in, everybody. It's the AFTERBUZZ TV After Show for Billions Season 1, Episode 2, entitled Naming Rights. I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M. We've got a full panel in tonight. The whole crew is here.
Back.
Before we get to the A-Team, I want to say, hey, John Blake.
Oh.
It's JB Zimmerman.
I'm pretty sure this is the A-Team. It is JB Zimmerman. You guys can follow me at Hey John Blake.
And the first half, the ultimate people person, it's Andrea Fasano.
That's me, guys. Hey, I'm Andrea Fasano, and you can follow me on all social media at Andy Fasano.
And her better half, Alinna Vision.
You guys can follow me on all social media at Alinna Vission. That's ALINAVISSION.
Awesome. So thanks so much for tuning in this week. We are going to start this week, as we will every show, with our social media shoutouts section.
Shoutouts.
So use the hashtag ABTVBillions on Twitter, Instagram, or directly on our YouTube page. And before each episode, we're going to go through your comments and find what we thought was most valuable or interesting and discuss it at the top of the show. So, for me on Twitter, actually, let's start with Alinna, who was going through the YouTube comments this week.
YouTube. So we had a lot of people on YouTube actually comment on that one section that we were talking about, where the woman in the conference kind of told off Bobby for the whole 9/11 thing.
The jilted
right.
wife.
Yeah. So a lot of people were asking, you know, kind of had the same thoughts of us, like, is this going to be a conspiracy? Like, there's no way he could have known. So Carla Harris, what up, Carla? Says the only way they can say he knew about 9/11 is if they go the conspiracy theory way. But the thing that really made her think something was fishy is that his wife took the woman out to the balcony and threatened her.
Like, had a one-on-one with her.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And watching the show today, Bobby seems to know so much about everything. I could so totally imagine him saying, airport security was lax. You could have seen it coming a mile away for years. You know, something like that, you know, a scene like that. So I'd understand where people are coming from with that sort of conspiracy aspect of it all.
Well, Malin Ackerman is cold-blooded. Like, she was, you know, right away nipping that at the bud, shutting that down. But I know that the present is sort of 2015. It's been a while. How do we think that... why that person took so long to kind of bring that up?
Well, it's kind of what we were talking about last week.
Totally said that last week.
Yeah, so, you know, the main thing is that, she probably should not have waited. And
I mean, you hold on to a grudge for that long.
Yeah. There was actually somebody on Twitter who tweeted all of us and said it was something about, it could have been, like, he stole, like, the intellectual property, and I was like, that's why.
Anything else on YouTube that you saw? Valuable?
That was pretty much it. Everyone was kind of going that whole same route for the most part. Other people said, great after show. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We will highlight specifically people who think we do a good job next week. So if you're out there, again, use that hashtag ABTVBillions. Well, I'm in charge of Twitter for this week and this week only. Our wonderful other co-panelists will be handling that moving forward. But I did want to highlight a couple people out there who had some really good tweets. This is from @WaterLilySan. She said, listening to the first episode of our after show, now it's like you guys are in my head with the whole 9/11 conspiracy thing. I wondered too, which is a great point. Obviously, it was a big topic.
Yeah, not an accident, Water Lily. That is happening.
She also said that I wouldn't buy that house for any amount of money. Now, last week we asked a challenge question to the listeners if you would have bought the house or not, because you're making a pretty big statement and triggering the rest of these events. events, and she said, I wouldn't buy it for any amount of money, way too big. Something you guys talked about last week.
It's called the big house problem. And it's a thing.
Like, what? It's clearly a thing. Why?
Not something I know about, but I've heard
don't need
people talk about it.
Yeah, a family of four, and that house was
with little kids. Like,
huge.
The best part about that house with little kids is the fact that you can play hide and seek in it. Like that's
Plus, they have their own beach.
It's an
like they literally have
game
their own
for your children.
zip code, probably.
Second half of her tweet was, but I probably would have made some splashy purchase, LOL. So, I mean, we all would have.
yes.
And then one other tweet I want to mention, this is from @CinematicEscape. She said, by the end of the season, this is a prediction, by the end of the season, Rhodes's BDSM obsession is going to show up in the media and cause him to lose his U.S. attorney position.
I think that's a good one.
ABTV
That's
Billions.
huge. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Huge implication and an awesome prediction.
Well, there's so much blackmailing going on back and forth. We had this episode the GoPro set up for that whole situation here, which we'll talk about, obviously.
Right.
But I really want that to go down, because it was so weird, so creepy. Obviously, like starting off. Literally, the first scene is Rhodes getting peed on.
Right. Yeah. But that's what's so sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Like with politics and with this sort of business, that is all it is: blackmail and back and forth, and that's why we were saying with that Hall guy, like at what point may he even bow out and sell out Axelrod? So it's a lot of back and forth like that, and that's what makes it scary. It's a scary business, and you have to be like not perfect, but really watch your life, like your personal life becomes your job, because it's so consumed.
That's absolutely the truth.
And I think we're going to see more of the BDSM, because actually Paul Giamatti was on, I think, the Seth Meyers show this last week, and he was talking about how he had to do research in sex clubs in New York. So it couldn't be for just that one scene. So
I'm sure he was so pissed about the research.
Exactly. So I think we're going to be seeing some more of that stuff go down.
That's great.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll bring up that article and tweet it out for you guys out there, linking back to that video if you would.
Absolutely.
So follow Alinna on Twitter, and she will shoot that out for everybody. Okay, so that's the end of the social media segment for this show. Again, use that hashtag ABTV Billions for next week and beyond. But let's get into the episode breakdown.
Yes.
Let's do it.
JB, we all went around last week and said what our favorite part was about the first episode. How about you? Tell us what you've liked so far the best.
So far in the season, well, I don't know if either of you guys said this, but last week, absolutely best moment was when Damian Lewis told Chuck Rhodes, like, if the best part about having fuck you money is that you have to say fuck you. Just such a boss move.
Right.
Obviously he kind of started the fire a little bit, but still, I mean, you gotta do it. He has billions. Like, you have to embody that, and it's sort of a responsibility in a lot of ways. You are treated differently from everybody that's around you, so you kind of become someone that's not really treated as an equal.
Right.
Like, you are above normal society because you can buy countries.
But isn't that crazy? Don't you feel like, and especially I'm sure we'll get there in this episode, but like he's just throwing out millions.
Like it's nothing.
Like it's dimes. Like it's
must be
not dimes. And it eventually adds up to a couple billion. So how do you do that? How do you donate? How do you spend all that money without eventually getting close to the run out point? Like, I don't understand that.
Because he's investing.
Go ahead.
I guess. Yeah. He's good with his money.
He's not spending it out of his personal bank account.
Right.
There are investment funds and, certain things, he can make an
all
endowment
divvied up.
fund. It's constantly being replenished too at the same time with interest rates and the way that your products grow. So
it just sounds like it's all words. Like, oh yeah, let's throw 100 million that way. Okay. Fine. But someone did say on YouTube about how you can't make that kind of money legally. And I thought that was a really good point, that they were saying that legally you could only get so far unless you are in the entertainment business or something where you're getting paid ridiculous amounts of money, or an athlete. But so I thought that was a really good point from someone on YouTube too, that that obviously him and Burch have to be making it illegally somehow.
Interesting.
Just
like
a note.
Like with the
note,
salary
guys.
caps they were talking about?
Kind of.
Okay.
All of that stuff. They mentioned that.
Well, we've gotten hints in this episode about
it not
certain
being legal,
backsiding, type of deals happening. But Andrea, I wanted to ask you. You had certain thoughts about this episode, and you felt it was a tone shift from the pilot. Why did you think that, and why did you think that?
I just felt overall when it ended, I literally stopped and was like, wait, was that the same show that I watched last week? Very different in mood, very different in overall tone as far as obviously we're getting into the meat of it. The first one was just an introduction. It was great. We all loved it. It covered all ends. It was beautifully done. I'm not saying this one wasn't beautifully done. I just personally was like, meh. Like, if this was the pilot, it would have been much harder for me to get into the show and be excited about it. I think this was more of a bridging show, episode between what happened in the pilot and now what will continue to happen. But they did make some pretty big moves, like with Burch. They didn't let that drag on for a while.
Right.
We see him making a settlement or going for a deal. So I thought that was pretty good. And it was just different tone for me overall.
I will agree with you in one sense, in that I thought the scene for me that worked the least was the conference room scene where they're pitching ideas for investments.
Yeah.
It felt like a cross between The Wolf of Wall Street and Entourage with Ari Gold.
Right.
And that's not what David Constable, who plays Wags, and what Damian Lewis, who plays Axe, are best at. They're not the best at being these extroverted showmen assholes, right? Like calling out people, belittling them. I don't think that's their strength as actors or in performance. So when he's sitting there and ripping a guy and, F you and you're a loser, I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense.
Every other comment from Wags, first of all, he was very quiet in episode 1.
Yes.
So he wasn't that guy. He was more of like the butler. Right? He played that role. Now he's like, everything was a euphemism. Every other sentence. I was like, we get it. You like comparing things to other things. Like, we know what you were saying.
For me, I mean, more than the character attributes that came out during that scene was kind of the company culture that was coming out, that they were kind of creating that stock market hedge fund. We all expect them to be living like these hard, fast lives. Even I think in the premiere episode they talked about the conduct in the office, like that could be called into question if they get investigated. So I think that they were touching on that, creating sort of a bullying culture. Obviously they have the in-house therapists ready to validate the shit out of people when they come into the office,
and she's fantastic.
Really confident,
like the hype woman,
and boost their confidence. That one lady right before the meeting came in for that kind of pep talk right before. So it strikes me as that type of person that they live off that enthusiasm, like they are fueled by that.
Alinna, what did you think
of this episode?
Of that scene specifically?
I kind of feel the same way that you guys do. I mean, that scene, my eyes kind of glazed over because there was a lot of things, like financial things that they were talking about.
Yeah, a lot of technical jargon.
Yeah, then I was like, oh my goodness, is this going to be on the test later? Do I need to know this? There's just words and all this. So I do see what you guys are saying about both characters. I kind of bought it, but kind of didn't. It was.
Over the top.
It was over the top, but I get that that's where they were going because that is the culture kind of The Office.
In a way, but I'll disagree with you, JB, because I've sat in corporate meetings. I'm sure all of you have. A boss doesn't really have to call you out so on the nose to make you feel like crap. When you know that you've goofed something up and they say, "Did you do that?" and the answer is no. Then they sort of just let the silence sit. They go,
says it all.
Okay, well, you need to do that. And it's not this over the top, you're an idiot,
Well, look, Axe let that one guy go.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a good cop, bad cop scenario they were running, which is interesting. I mean, originally I thought it was to kind of put the employees in a place to really test them, given what he was doing a minute later with the SEC or fake SEC coming in.
Right.
So I thought it was that, but it seemed, it never really paid off in that way. Like, oh, we did our best to rile them up before. So I don't know, maybe we'll see in future episodes if they do that again, if they do act like that. normally. I mean,
yeah, it was a change from the quiet power, I think, to something more overtly obvious. Which, you know, it's very, very Entourage. Ari Gold walking through the hallways,
Ari Gold, that's a good
shooting people with paintballs and telling them to fight. It's a great scene.
All right.
But I just felt like it was a different tone for that specific part. We touched on this SEC mock investigation, which I thought was really interesting, how protective everyone was. You know, what about that scene? Do you think that feels like it would feel in terms of the way that a hedge fund would run? Did that ring true for you? Because I know that you've been sort of heating on the side of believing what they're presenting to us in terms of the
that's how I imagine it. I mean, it's been glamorized sort of in Hollywood a lot of times as that way. Like, it's very hardcore. It's like the New York life. You either do it or you get thrown out. So I like to believe that, but at the same time, for the characters that they're trying to create, you know, it doesn't really add up. You know, with Damian Lewis, we see him after firing that guy right away regretting it, confiding in his go to the therapist, you know, that he made a mistake and that he needs to make up for it because he kind of reacts to the rage a little bit. He said it was like the heat in the moment and it just got out of hand. So to see that sort of lack of control with someone who has come so far is kind of hard to see where they're going.
Andrea, what do you think of that?
The whole SEC thing, just them being there, I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought it was a really good twist to what was going on. I mean, it scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh, these guys are done. Like, is the tip the right answer? Like, I was like, what am I waiting for? Like, what is the right answer? So I like that. I thought that was cool. It is interesting to me because I'm kind of like, where are they going with this? I understand he's covering his ass, but it's like, you do have a culture and you're known and you made money off of this way. So how are you all of a sudden going to reel that in? I don't know. So I kind of agreed with the guy who got fired, cocky as he was. I thought it was very interesting, and I love the whole therapist angle in this whole show because her calling these, I mean, it's just like, sorry, men, we could do that with every person in our lives. Like, if you just kind of break it down and see where they come from and why they people react a certain way. And men and women, that goes for everyone, of course. But I'm just saying that was a very testosterone-filled world. It's kind of a nice look at it, that to kind of be like, listen, this guy's gonna come back. They use these amazing words, amazing vocabulary, and then they break down something so simple. And I think that's really a note on life, if you will, for lack of a better phrase about it, you know?
Yeah, I love your perspective on that.
Thank
you. It was
you.
a nice twist you know, throughout the episode that we got to see. What did you think of that whole scene?
Loved the twist. When he fired the guy, immediately I thought, that's the wrong guy to fire.
Totally.
Like, you could just tell somebody that's that cocky and that hot-headed is gonna come around and kind of, you know, bite you in the butt. Like, he knows exactly. He knows everything that's going on in there. He knows what you're doing. It's gonna come around. Right. So when the therapist went in there and was like, hey, that's the wrong guy, I was like, okay.
I'm surprised they even brought that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because we got a little hint where when Wendy goes to meet Victor at his house, he says, you know, I bribed that oil CEO. And she's like, wait, stop. You can't tell me that.
Yeah, she doesn't want to know.
Yeah, just that little plot tidbit was really interesting, I thought. Another plot point that I want to go over, and I know you two, the A-Team, had a big-time reaction to this, was Tara Moore flipping from, you know, being a part of the U.S. Attorney's Office to texting Axe's investigator. How it came about, of course, was through a sexual act that was taped and then presented to her as blackmail. Andrea, I know you had a big reaction to it.
Did I?
Of course you did.
You know why? Because I had seen it, so I started watching this last night, and then we watched it together, and I was like exhausted last night. Right, apparently that's what I just said. That's not what I meant. But I just kind of was interested more in the fact, I mean, we've seen that stuff before, and I think it always adds something to these types of shows. Surprising only because as it being the second episode, you're like, who the frig are these people? Like, I didn't care about it at first. And then you wonder when that guy Hall comes in, who's Axelrod's behind the scenes guy, he, you know, is there blackmailing her. My reaction wasn't to the scene of the women. It was to him sitting in her apartment watching that over and over and really talking to her and just letting it play. Like you just it was like he had been there for a while. Right. That's what my reaction really was too. And it was awesome that and I loved that she was like, we were trained in this. This is where I'm saying that they break it down for like the normal audience. They don't try to act above what they really are. She's like, we were trained for this. You're not scaring me, kind of deal. And it's like, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. She's not she's like, who the frig are you? Get out of my apartment. But I did think she would react a little more to the fact that then he caught her doing cocaine. And that's like, he could take you down, but who are you? Like, I don't even know if he not introduced, hi, I'm this guy who's videotaping you. Well, and I want to know who the girl was, because clearly she was in on it. That's what sucks.
That's right.
Oh, the one that was...
Because she goes up to grab the GoPro and takes the footage away. So, it was a setup, 100%. But as I was watching that, I kind of like rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really making this happen. And I looked at you, Alinna, and you were laughing too. You're like, this is so much right now. Was it too heavy-handed, that scene?
I don't think it was too heavy-handed. I think it was fine.
Yeah?
It's Showtime.
Yeah, it's Showtime. I mean, we knew that there was going to be some sex, right? I mean, that just kind of goes with the territory. But what did surprise me was that she did back down to Hall. Like, I was like, you got to give up a little bit more fight, you know? Like, you're not supposed to be blackmailed. You could easily just go to your bosses and say, I would think, like, hey, I did this, but somebody's trying to blackmail me. I'm sure they'd want to know that more than you did coke,
Yeah. Well, that's assuming she's really smart about it, right?
Exactly.
True. But he was a pretty intense guy.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
is.
Not really with like a gun in hand, but like everything he said was just like so
crazy,
hauntingly creepy. I was like, holy crap, dude! Like, what? He was like, yeah, you don't even want to know what would get me off because it would like haunt you for all of time.
That's what I was laughing. I was like, oh really? Wow.
Dude, Jesus. Yeah, not hugged as a child.
Hugged as a child.
Well,
but it's
he
like
may be watching Rhodes and his wife, and that's what turns him on.
Fair
enough. Yeah.
You were saying?
I think it came out of nowhere a little bit. Obviously, it's Showtime. It's a new show. They have to make a splash.
Right.
They had
so we all
S&M
basically have the same
stuff.
opinion on it. Right.
Yeah,
I
wish they just introduced her as a character first.
Right.
So we like knew who it was. Like,
because it was just out of nowhere. Like, do I need to know these two people? Like,
and plus, you're right. I mean, there's two of them. It was sort of difficult to pick like who we're supposed to be watching, like who shouldn't be there doing cocaine. So, I mean, that's because we still don't know the blonde girl. Like, is she going to come back? Like, who is she really working for? Hopefully these questions get answered, but I would love, a little bit more clarity up front, so I would care more. Like, oh my God, she's doing cocaine. It's that chick that should not be doing cocaine.
Right.
And I thought she was the one who came in later with the info, which I had no idea what that woman said. But I'm not sure.
No, it's another prosecutor.
It's not her.
It's a different person. So
she has to be on Axelrod's team. So obviously,
she's a part of the shady underworld of this show. But let's take I want to take a quick time out to thank everybody for listening. We're able to bring you these after shows for free at AFTERBUZZ TV because of involvement from people like you. So please, if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a review. Give us 5 stars only because you love us. Give us a thumbs up on the YouTube page and a comment that allows us to keep bringing the content to you week after week. And then use that hashtag.
Hashtag.
Yes.
Which totally works because that helps us get guests and that makes the show more awesome. I mean, it's pretty awesome already. Let's be real.
Right. Well, eventually we'll get somebody involved in the show who has a perspective far more interesting than ours for all of you guys.
With the inside info, we got to get the billions.
That's right.
We got to get the tips, the stuff. Full circle. Boom.
Prom night.
Prom night.
That's what we all thought.
That was the best line of the whole
amazing.
show.
Yeah, touche. I think that's my favorite moment.
But even weirder that the girl had just said a prom night kind of comment before that. I'm like, all right, theme.
The theme is definitely happening.
Is it prom season?
I don't know.
Another major plot point that happened in this episode was Stephen Burch's case coming through to fruition. We saw Rhodes go and visit the reporter who wrote the story. We see Burch ultimately decides to settle against his attorney's advice, or unless the attorney was putting up some token resistance. JB, what do you think is going to come of this?
I think he's going to cut a deal. I mean, everything that they've constructed, obviously, Paul Giamatti's character has no interest in Burch at all. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's going to pull anything he can to kind of convince Burch to take a knee and kind of, catch the bigger fish. Right. Obviously, they've worked together. They were on that news conference thing, the speaking
the
engagement.
investors conference, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I want to see if Damian Lewis has any enemies, really, other than Burch. I mean, he's the natural one that we see coming, but I think it's a little obvious. I think that he, being as smart as he would have to be to have billions of dollars, should be able to protect against a guy like Burch. Seeing
but
him
at the charity dinner, they look like they're friends.
They were. I'm glad you said that, because even with that thing, I was like,
that's gonna be our signal now.
That's what me and Alinna are gonna do. But I totally thought the same, Frank, because I thought as soon as he was busted and they're at the dinner and he's with his wife and he finds out, he was gonna look and give a mean face to Axelrod, and instead Axelrod was doing this, and especially when it did that, I thought he was gonna give him the finger back, and instead he gives him my life is over. I don't know what anything's happening right now.
He has no clue, obviously, that it comes from Axelrod.
For sure,
no clue.
for sure. Yeah. But I was just actually surprised that he wouldn't all of a sudden just get a face on about it. But yeah, he's ready to lie down. Yeah. $382 million, right? That's what.
That's what his fund was probably worth. So they're shutting it down and taking all the money.
It's just crazy.
It's crazy to me that on this show, people would rather pay a fine than go to jail. That is the one thing. Yeah. They do not want to go to jail at all. We saw that with, what was the guy in the first episode? Leeds, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who killed himself?
Right, the guy who killed himself. They'd rather kill themselves than go to jail for, for 11 years.
Well, to them, money is money.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's nothing to them. So they'd much rather stay at it. I don't think any of those guys are surviving in prison.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Those guys are going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
Because prison's a good time.
Well, I mean, no, if you were a gigantic human, 8 foot,
Well, I'm sure the inmates would have targeted that guy, They know the news stories when you're going
in. The fresh fish, right?
Fresh fish. Shawshank Redemption. Right there. Nice reference there, JB.
Nice.
Our final topic is someone who's not in jail just yet, but Rhodes is trying very hard to do so, and that is Axe's acquisition of the naming rights of a building. For which this episode is named. Obviously, a very important issue to Axe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really wants that. I mean, he's about to throw down $125 million.
And we don't know why.
No.
Why? And I think this is kind of why you were confused at first. And like Alinna, you were saying, you're throwing away a lot of money here. Mm-hmm. When are you gonna run out of your billions? Mm-hmm. But obviously, he has this deep-seated anger about people who wronged him when he was a child. So we heard the story about how he was, a golfer or a caddy for a golfer, and he got fired, and it really hurt him. So for me, this was a change because we saw a big revenge streak in Axe. So for me, that was a change in the character. And it showed just how far he's willing to go to get his point across. What do you think of that?
I think you saying that totally just made me realize how important that actually was to this whole episode, and for us to see as a character who he is and what really drives him. Seriously, as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, it's not about this silly naming of a building, which I think it's exciting for him and his wife. I mean, even at the end, they were like, I have so much to say right now because I like you said, he's had the Metallica. She walks in this hippie shirt, and he's got the Metallica shirt. They're chill, and that's who they are. That's who their roots. And they were until someone has more money to buy us over, But it's not only about him revenging on people who wronged him, but he was talking about how these guys did nothing to gain their money or to have the money that they have, and it's a whole family of it. So from the grandparents to the grandchildren, you've done nothing in this life to earn that dollar. And it kind of ties into the 9/11 stuff of him giving back to people or places or spending the money where he sees fit, and it's places that maybe he wouldn't have helped before, like the pizza guy in the first one. That pizza guy did right right by him. So he wanted to help him. These guys wronged him, or the grandfather wronged him, and he was like, listen, you haven't earned a damn dime in your life. Take your $9 million. Even if I give you $1 million, it would help you right now. Right. And that's it. So I love that you just made that point, because
thank you.
It's definitely a vision into what we are going to see more of from him.
Yeah, it's a new layer of the character. Alinna, though, when you watched him do that, put yourself in Malin Ackerman's shoes, Lara, in the show. Is that a turn on to see your man throw it down like that? Okay.
That's hot. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, I love that whole scene because it just showed that he plays the long game. Like, something that happened to him when he was a teenager.
Right.
He's worked and worked and worked, and now can completely flip the switch on those people.
And so she
who don't
started
even
the whole
remember.
thing, right?
Exactly. She started the whole thing. So you know she thinks it's hot because she's like, that's my man. I'm starting this. We're going to put our name on that building. You know?
JB, it was very like House of Cards, Lady Macbeth, standing behind the man to do it, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like a power couple for sure. And I like what you said. Like, I love the long con aspect of it, and I hope that runs deep in his motivations for everything. I mean, hopefully that's sort of at the end of this whole 9/11 situation where. It's very surprising that he's the only one left. Like, he is the sole survivor. And so sort of, like, why is that? How, if he has this hugely insane attitude about, righting the wrongs and making sure that the top is deserving of that wealth and that lifestyle and everything that comes with it, maybe he kind of forced everybody out or did some sneakiness behind the scenes to make sure that people, who were at the top really earned it, and people who didn't, really lost it.
Yeah.
And hopefully he took that from them.
Interesting.
He's there's scheming happening behind the scenes that I can't wait to get to, and I feel like, that hopefully is driving it. That it seemed like sort of a throwaway scene if it doesn't add up to more.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. That's why I'm so glad Frank made that point, because that's why I thought there were too many throwaway scenes, but obviously that can't be the case. So there's a master plan, even for the fact of what Lara does. Like, she's farming, and we haven't seen that of her, so it's like, okay, something's gonna be, I'm sure, brought out.
That's a good point. I was like, meanwhile, she's like out in the countryside.
Farming turnips or something.
Sometimes you gotta grow the produce.
I guess, but they'll inform us. You have to be patient with this show. I think that's a huge point to make here. You just have to exactly, literally.
Literally.
Touche.
Wow. The A team is on fire
figuring
tonight.
it out.
C formation.
All right, let's move into the final segment of the show, which is our predictions for what is going to come.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Let's send it back to the A team. And we'll work left to right here. Alinna, your predictions for next episode and beyond.
I don't know. This is kind of hard. I think we're gonna see more from Lara.
Lara. Whatever.
I know.
Malin
Ackerman. Next episode, I think we're gonna get more into her character, especially because they did kind of plant the seeds with her whole farming, and now we know she kind of likes the power that comes with, obviously, being Bobby's wife and just being able to be like, yo, I think I want my name on, or our name on that, building. So that, I think, obviously, we're gonna see more from Tara now that she's a spy. And I guess that's all I have.
I'm like watching you like, okay, keep going, because I don't know what I have. Like I said, I'm the worst with predictions. I get so wrapped up in what's going on in the episodes, and I'm just like, just you tell me what's happening next, and that Tara character, I'm not into her right now. I kind of want that to be over with. Yeah. She was very like blank faced, like when Hall was talking to her, like you said, not too scared, not too fighting back. I'm kind of just like whatever about her. So I don't know how fast that will happen and blow over, but I'm just excited to see more about Axe and this whole business and what other shady business is going on with Malin Ackerman too, and just seeing, because even like interrupt and finish the sentences that he's doing. So they really are on the same page, and I'm excited about that. But and Rhodes, I want to see more Rhodes in this next one.
And what about the journalist? I think we'll see more from him, too.
I'm definitely predicting more of the journalist. I mean, that ambush with Rhodes was very telling. Very reminiscent of House of Cards, which that whole like journalist, like high power relationship is ripe for abuse. So I think that is going to happen. But I mean, he seems very smart. Like, he's got a great head on his shoulders. He seems like he's not going to be bullied around. And for him to kind of turn the tide on that first engagement, when he was literally ambushed outside of his front door, is good. I think that he hopefully is like the just character. I was trying to find my bearings between like good and bad, because you would normally like associate like the U.S. government being the good guys, but in this show they kind of set it up for the worst. Like they paint them as the bad guys. Like Chuck Rhodes is incriminating like his dad's friends, and like, you know, he does S&M and gets burned and peed on.
And then with the guy in this episode,
the guy in the park like really bitched him out.
Right.
And I mean, it's sort of like the other side of what you're doing. Like, you know, not only do we have that, but we had the suicide. You know, it's intense. So I wonder like how much of those skeletons will fall out of his closet. Like, you know, he got this 81-0 record. How much corruption is behind that? Like, how many times did he take like a Stephen Burch deal and play that to...
But I don't think that's corruption. But I love that you brought up the park scene, because that's a huge deal. Why are you buying, you know, ice cream for a guy you're putting away? So far, we've only seen him be this altruistic stand-up character who has this big speech in the pilot episode about how you never waver, and you know, you always need to pursue things to the highest good. So I think you're right in that he's probably gotten people into settlements. I don't think it's a corrupt nature though, but I do think, and my prediction is that Wendy's interest being a part of Axe Capital is going to cloud Rhodes' vision and is going to create these conflicts of interest, which neither one really wants to give up. Wendy wants to not have her husband tell her where to work, unless he comes to her and says, hey, you know, there's a really bad thing going on here. But I think ultimately Bobby is going to go to Wendy for advice. She's going to be giving him an advice that's actually going to work against Rhodes' case.
Right.
I love the three of them, you know, being together. I love Wendy character, as you guys were talking about before.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think a lot is coming. But that park scene I thought was really interesting. You know, we got a couple of clues today about what's, you know, who these people are beyond what we learned in the first episode. We're just going to push us forward. Final thoughts. Anybody?
I like it. I mean, I maybe if it's not corruption, maybe it's just the guilt of what he, like the implications that he does. Like, yes,
of his job.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like he does this work, we hope, because it's like the greater good. But you know, when that type of stuff happens, like literally this dad is leaving these two orphans.
Right.
But he makes a comment to his wife. Is that what you were going to say?
Along those lines of government, but go ahead.
He talks to his wife as they're walking home from getting groceries and saying, I wish I could just be a little bit more human. And you can't in that.
No. And no human is perfect. So I think that's what the trouble is with those jobs, the government jobs, and on all levels. I mean, not to bring this in there, but I've been watching Making a Murderer, and like all of that stuff, you know, and that's what makes me think of that. Nobody's perfect. You do have a job to do. You have laws to abide by. And he's kind of saying, well, at what point do I turn around and go, yeah, this guy lost his, like he had a malfunction of his brain and being depressed and his wife died. But that's not for me to judge. I'm not there to judge your life and say, oh yeah. I'm there to say you did something wrong. You broke the law, and that's my job. So that's really hard.
Final thought, Alinna.
I just love seeing the difference between the two worlds, between Bobby's world where everything just kind of looks easy, it's all clean and crisp and nice, and then seeing Rhodes' world where, you know, it's like Chinese takeout and everything's a little bit more dingy and gritty. I love that. I love seeing that.
That's a great point.
It was a good point.
Thank you.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, looking back at all the scenes, like all of the furniture, it's all white and clean and new. Like it's very like modern architecture.
Right.
And then you like cut to
styrofoam.
The other office. Well, I mean, they still have a lot of success, so it is money, but it's sort of old money. It's like a library.
You have to work for that money. You can tell, like it's like hard work. Whereas Bobby Axelrod's world is like he can make 18 million in a second, or something like that. So I think I love seeing those two like different worlds.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, great point. And that's it. That's all for this week, everybody. We're going to go out on that strong note. We're coming back next week, same time, same channel. Until then, it's been the A-Team and the A-Plus team. First of all, it was Alinna Vision.
Hey, you guys can follow me on all social media at Alinna Vision. That's Alinna Vission.
And Andrea Fasano.
Yep, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Keep the comments coming. I'm at Andy Fasano on all social media.
And it's Hey John Blake.
Nice. Yeah, it is. You guys can follow me, JB, at Hey John Blake. Thank you, Frank, for reiterating the awesomeness.
I just love his Twitter name. It's so good. And I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M.
Let's go, Frank
Thank you all for tuning in this week. We'll be back again. Shoot us in your comments. Use that hashtag ABTV Billions. Go out and have a blessed week. We'll see you back soon.
Later, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.